These 4 predictions will leave your spectator speechless. The magician starts the trick with a normal deck of cards. He gives it to the spectator and asks the spectator to shuffle the cards as much as he wants. Once the deck is shuffled, the magician takes it back. He looks through the cards and takes out 4 cards, and he places them on the table. For now, he doesn't show them to the spectator. He puts them to the side and tells the spectator that he will use them later. Now the magician gives the deck back to the spectator and asks the spectator to shuffle the cards once again. Once the deck is shuffled, the magician takes it back. He looks through the cards once again, and this time he will make 4 predictions. To make his predictions, he will use 4 blue cards from a blue deck. This is the first predicted card. This is the second predicted card. This is the third predicted card. And finally, this is the fourth predicted card. Now, the magician gives the red deck to the spectator, and he tells the spectator that he will have to cut the deck somewhere to select 4 cards. Here's how. The magician instructs the spectator to cut nearly half the deck and to turn this cut part at 180 degrees and to place it back on the deck. He has the spectator to cut the deck a second time, and this time he has to make sure that he cuts deeper in order to cut to a face down card and not a face up card. When the spectator cuts the deck a second time, he flips the cut part at 180 degrees and he puts it back on the deck. Now the magician takes the deck and spreads the cards on the table. He shows the spectator that some cards are face up and some cards are face down. The 4 selected cards will be the first 4 cards face down after the first card face up. The magician takes out those 4 cards from the spread. He turns over all the face up cards and he puts them with all the face down cards to make one pile. The spectator can take a look at those 4 cards if he wants. Now the magician makes 4 piles. The first pile that he makes will contain 12 cards. The second pile that he makes contains 9 cards. The third pile that he makes also contains 9 cards. And for the fourth pile, it will simply be the remaining cards. He squares up all the piles so everything looks clean. He asks the spectator to prepare his 4 selected cards, and he asks the spectator to break a portion of the 4th pile and to place one of his selected cards on the 4th pile. Now he asks the spectator to break a portion of the 3rd pile and to place this broken portion on top of the 4th pile and to place one of his selected cards on the 3rd pile. Both the spectator and magician follow the same steps for the 2nd and 1st pile. When all selected cards are placed, the magician gathers all the piles to make one single pile. He puts the deck aside and he takes those 4 cards right here. He shows to the spectator that those 4 cards right here are a king, a 10, a 4, and a 7. The magician takes the deck and he counts cards on the table based on the value of those 4 cards. He counts 13 cards for the first pile since the king has the value of 13. He counts 10 cards for the second pile since the value of the second card is 10. He counts 4 cards for the third pile since the value of the third card is 4. And finally, he counts 7 cards for the fourth pile, since the value of the card is 7. Now that all 4 piles are made, the magician no longer needs the remaining cards in his hand and the 4 cards on the table. He squares up the 4 piles on the table and brings them closer to himself. He turns them over to show to the spectator what card is at the bottom of each pile. The magician takes the 4 blue cards that he used for his prediction, and he simply shows to the spectator that each blue card corresponds perfectly with the 4 other cards already shown on the table. The spectator remains speechless. Start this trick with a normal deck of cards. Give it to your spectator and ask your spectator to shuffle the cards as much as he wants. Once he's done shuffling, take the cards back. In order for this trick to work, you'll always have to take out 4 cards. You'll need any card with the value of 7, any card with the value of 4, any card with the value of 10, and any card with the value of a king. Those 4 cards will help you later in the trick. Simply place them face down on the table. You will use them later in the trick. Now, your spectator might suspect that you have done something with the cards. Therefore, give him the deck back and ask him to shuffle the cards once again. Once he's done shuffling, take the cards back and look through them once again. This time, you'll have to predict 4 cards. And the 4 cards that you'll have to predict are the 4 cards completely to the left. The first card that you'll predict will be the first one completely to the left. It is the Queen of Hearts. In this tutorial, I'll use blue cards for my prediction, but you can also use a piece of paper or your cell phone in order for the trick to work. The second card that you'll predict will be the card to the right of the Queen of Hearts. It is the 6 of Clubs. The third card that you'll predict will be the third card to the left. In this case, is the Jack of Diamonds. And the last card that you'll predict will be the fourth card starting from the left. In this case, is the Ace of Spades. Once you've predicted your 4 cards, here's the method that you'll use in order to force your spectator to select those cards by making your spectator believe that he selected 4 cards randomly. The method that you'll use to force the 4 cards on the spectator, it's called a double cut force. Here's how it works. First, ask your spectator to lift approximately half of the deck, and then ask him to turn this cut part at 180 degrees and to place it back on top of the cards. When this is done, your spectator will have to do it a second time, but this time he'll have to lift a bit deeper than the first time in order to cut to a face down card and not a face up card. When he has lifted deep enough to a face down card, ask him to turn the cut part at 180 degrees and to place it back on the cards. There's a link in the description below if you want to learn more about the double cut force. When this is done, take the cards and spread them on the table. When you spread the cards, you will see that some cards are face up and some cards are face down. Simply tell your spectator that the 4 cards that will be selected will be the first 4 cards that are face down after the first card face up. Simply take them out from the spread and turn over all of the cards that are face up and put them back with all the cards that are face down. These are the 4 cards that the spectator think he selected randomly. You can let your spectator look at the cards if he wants, but as the magician, you already know that those 4 cards correspond to the blue cards that you've predicted. Now it's time to make 4 piles by dealing cards on the table. The first pile that you'll make will contain 12 cards. Therefore, deal 12 cards on the table. The second pile that you'll make will contain 9 cards. Therefore, deal 9 cards on the table. The third pile will also contain 9 cards. Therefore, deal 9 cards on the table. And for the fourth and last pile, it will simply be the remaining cards in your hand. Square up all the piles to make everything look clean. Now ask your spectator to prepare his 4 selected cards. Ask your spectator to cut a portion of the 4th pile and place it to the right, just like so. This will create a 5th pile. Ask him to place one of his selected cards on top of the 4th pile. Now ask him to break a portion of the 3rd pile and to place this broken portion on top of the 4th pile. And ask him to place one of his selected cards on top of the 3rd pile. Follow the same steps for the 2nd and 1st pile. Once all the cards are placed, gather all the piles by starting from the left one and going all the way down to the right one. Now take the 4 cards that you took earlier in the trick and show them to your spectator. And make sure they follow this order starting from the left. King, 10, 4, and 7. Now take the deck and you'll have to make 4 piles. And each pile will have a number of cards according to the value of the face-up cards on the table. For the first pile, you'll have to deal 13 cards on the table, since the value of a king is 13. For the second pile, deal 10 cards on the table, since the value of the second card is a 10. For the third pile, deal 4 cards on the table, since the value of the third card is 4. Once you reach 7, you'll have to make a pile a little bit differently from the others. Simply count 7 cards in your hand, just like so, and place those cards on the table. Once you've made the 4 piles, you no longer need the cards remaining in your hand. And you also no longer need the face-up cards on the table. At this point, simply bring the piles closer to yourself and flip each pile. To show what card is located at the bottom, you'll simply have to reveal to your spectator that the 4 blue cards that you've predicted earlier correspond to the 4 cards that are face up on the table. Your spectator will be stunned by your performance.